I want to get to Kamal Hadden, the number 4 ranked PFF cornerback nationally. The question is he the most improved Vol this year so far? I think that's pretty easy, Josh. I actually want to look at it from a historic perspective of guys that we've written off. But let me start with the question at hand. Most improved Vol this year so far?
Yeah, I'm trying to think through. That sounds right. Kamal Hadden, especially we're talking about that South Carolina game. Nobody had a worse night probably than Kamal there in Columbia. And think about how things started, but how he's really played overall this season. I think Tyler Barron is a candidate. I mean, James Pierce is definitely a candidate. We don't even know where he was last year, so he didn't play. So you want to talk about breakout? Pierce is high on that list too.
Okay, I want to give Josh a second to think about this. The most improved Vol since he's been covering Tennessee since what would be 2002? Does that sound right?
Yeah, define. I mean, I was with you at some practices in '01, so yeah, 22 years doing some
What the hell happened to time?
yeah,
But
unauthorized reporting, I think at the time.
yeah, you're throwing high heat. Okay, so my most improved Vol of all time is Rashad Baker. Okay, and the reason why I've got him is because he got trucked by LeBrandon Tofield for about 80 yards at LSU because they put him at cornerback because they needed him there 2 days after saying that he was the most polished receiver that Philip Fulmer had ever seen. So they put him at defensive back, and he turned into an all SEC type of safety,
Yeah,
and
played
he
in the
looked
NFL.
like yeah, and in the NFL, and he looked like pure garbage on that day. I was like, whoa, they made a mistake. So that to me is the first one that pops out. Caleb, most improved Ball over his career is?
That I need time to think about this too. And by the way, I want to point this out because you brought up James Pierce. There's a difference before I get to this between improved and breakout. Breakout is you were young and didn't start, and then it was your turn to start, and then you broke out.
Yeah.
Like Jalen Hyatt last year wasn't most improved. It was just his turn to start. I'm thinking of guys that started, were bad when they started, and then got really good. So in that regard, you got to go Eric Ainge 05 to 06, right?
Ooh, good one. Coaching was
Yeah.
involved, but I could roll with that, Josh.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Eric kind of returned to form though, right? Because we had already seen him be really good as a freshman in '04. He helped them win big games. Uh, but he was definitely improved. I thought about Crompton. I mean, think about how bad '08 was. And '09, fans are done. They don't want to see him again. And he went out and lit up Georgia and in '09 and was the offensive player of the week, I think, and then was good the rest of the way and helped them turn that into a somewhat successful season, not by historical standards, but with where things were at the time. So I thought Crompton in '09, the way he turned things around, especially with the heat that he was facing at that position, deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, Caleb, take a second while I tell this story to see if you can come up with anybody better because I think Josh just beat both of us. I can remember working for the Knoxville News Sentinel, and I said I want to go sit in the stands for this game, and they were like, "Why?" I said because I've been told by those around the Crompton family that are sitting there that he's getting death threats yelled at him, and his family's getting verbally attacked during the game. Well, I happened to pick the Georgia game. So he played so well, none of that stuff happened. I went back up to the press box. But Josh, he was I can't beat you on that. Caleb, is there anybody better that resurrected his career? If not for those final 6 or so games, you're talking about Jonathan Crompton being one of the biggest busts of all time.
Yeah, he actually played himself into a draft pick. I don't know if I can beat it. I think I can go with another quarterback, though, to get close. Because you're right. Ainge showed flashes in '04. To respond to Josh real quick, Ainge also had help because he had 2,000-yard rushers behind him and probably one of the best offensive line units in Tennessee history in '04 with Michael Munoz, Aaron Sears, Scott Wells, I think. No, Scott Wells.
I know, but he played well. So,
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
So, I mean, Stetson Bennett had help. He still got to go to the Heisman ceremony, which is a touchy subject. But yeah, most teams that have success, it's not because of one good quarterback and a bunch of bad teammates.
That's true. Where I would actually go, another one is Josh Dobbs. Remember when he had to step in for Justin Worley in 2013 and he was awful down the stretch and everybody following the Butch Jones Sr. was like, it doesn't matter. Riley Ferguson's going to be the starter. He's the guy. That's it. He's the future. The Riley Ferguson transfers. Josh Dobbs then has to step in again for Justin Worley at the end of halfway through the 2014 season and then never loses his starting job again.
Josh, you would know better than me because you were in the middle of it. But what about Jalen Hyatt? I mean, I know that he emerged, which kind of goes against Caleb's definition, but I thought some people were ready to write him off because of his attitude and his approach to the game before last season and before the offseason before 2022.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it does depend on your definition because Caleb, yours went a different direction. But going into last year, the talk before the season began was, okay, Hyatt needs to prove it or they're going to move on to somebody else because he was a popular player to break out in 2021 because we had seen his speed. He had the touchdown down the field against Alabama in 2020. And then Heupel came in and was like, okay, Hyatt with his speed and this offense, watch out. And then he was a disappointment in 2021 and was much improved last year. So I think he's eligible. I think there are a couple of receivers, though, that are eligible under Heupel. But again, do you consider it breakout or improved? But Cedric Tillman, in his first 3 seasons at Tennessee, had 8 receptions. In his 4th season, he had 12 touchdowns. So that is a noticeable improvement from where he went his first 3 seasons to what he ended up becoming at Tennessee. And, of course, part of that was opportunity. But, I mean, we're talking about 4 years into his career before that happened.
Josh.
And then one other, I know we're kind of doing a roll call at this point, but Theo Jackson, I think he's a great story. He had his first career pick a few weeks ago playing for the Vikings, but he was just a guy. He played a lot, but he was just a guy for Tennessee in the secondary that wasn't talked about much. He had an extra year because of the COVID eligibility and played in 2021 and was a valuable piece of that secondary to then get drafted and now play in the NFL. So he definitely is on the list of improved players. I don't know that he's number 1, but he's one of the better stories, I think, here recently.
Well, and if we talk comeback in life, Byron Young, he's telling you where the Kleenex are at the Dollar General, and now he is in the NFL. Last thing, Travis says, any chance we can get Josh Ward on board with Paisley shirt Thursdays? What do you think of Caleb's shirt, Josh?
I think it's a winner for Caleb.
I have a newsboy hat that fits this shirt too. I should have worn it together.
Yeah, you should wear something with it, like I don't know, like a jacket.
If Tennessee beats Alabama this weekend, I have another loud black shirt, and I'll wear it with a black newsboy hat next Thursday. Deal?
Yeah. All that shirt needs is a good pullover. All right. Josh, you're awesome. I love making Josh laugh more than everybody, and he giggled. I saw it. And by the way,
my wife is very honest with me, by the way, and if I tried to wear that shirt and she found out about it, there would be repercussions for me. So I mean no offense with that. I'm just my wife. I brought home a hat that was gifted to me last week, and I said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And she said, "Awesome hat. You're not cool enough for it, though." So.
Ooh! Not only she didn't like the hat, but she said you couldn't pull it off.
No, she liked the hat. She just didn't think that I could live up to the standard of it. So
she basically said, "Josh, stop trying to make the hat happen. It's not going to happen."
What about my coffee cup, Rad Dad? You can live up to that. You're one of the best dads I know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll leave you on this. I know your name's a little bit different, but another friend of mine, his name's David, told me he lost his ID. So he's just Dave now.
He's just Dave?
Lost his ID, David?
Oh, that's very good. That's very good.
My gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Josh, here's the weird part about that whole ID thing. It seems like the D is carrying most of the weight because you have I and then identification.
Right. Yeah. ID is short for identification, and then ID at the end of David. So you take it off. You got.
I got it. But Norm Macdonald does a great bit on, it seems like identification is just carrying all the weight there. It's doing all the work. It's very strange.
Well, there's one of the goats right there. We miss him.
Yeah, boy, I got sucked into some Norm Macdonald during my my scissor passing out with COVID over the past couple of days. So I enjoyed every bit of it. You're a fantastic man, Josh. I really appreciate it. Noon to 3 on the Sports Animal. Read his column because it's really good about Tennessee on the road. I think we all came up with the moral of the story is Tennessee is no more apt to make mistakes on the road just because they have an up-tempo offense than any other program out there. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Josh Ward is so good, and it's brought to you in part by Herald Group Security Solutions, leadership experience, specialization, addressing problems through unique mission-specific mitigation techniques, also making your children safer one school at a time. HeraldGRP.com. HeraldGRP.com. They're in private schools now. Okay, so if your kids go to private school, you have to go to them and say you need highly trained individuals, former servicemen oftentimes, and thank you everybody out there for your service. You're tougher than me. I couldn't do it. And HeraldGRP.com will make your children safer in private schools like ASAP, but we're going to get them in public schools too. It's going to happen. HeraldGRP.com. Let's avoid the tragedies that have plagued our country in the past. We don't want any of that. I love it for Kamal Hadden. Don't you love those stories? Who are some stories on the message board? I'm curious. Who are some stories that you absolutely love? I was so close. I'm not afraid to say it now. That Jonathan Crompton and his family were one of my major sources. So I felt the pain that they went through when I thought they were mistreated in some cases by some coaching staffs and some coaches that didn't know what to do with him. And he's my all-time favorite as far as a comeback player that made a name for himself despite a slow beginning. So he's always going to be number one in my mind. I should have brought that one up first. But don't you love it when a guy just kind of struggles along and then is suddenly a really good college football player, whether or not he makes the NFL? Isn't that a great story?
It is. It's harder for people to root for Kamal Hadden in this case than other people because Kamal Hadden always talked like he was one of those players. But my insistence, Dave, and you probably know this more than anybody, but if you have a good football team, you're going to need some players that, shall we say, talk more than they should. You always want the guy with a little bit of moxie. You want I don't want to say Dennis Rodman with the Bulls, but you kind of need that on a football team, don't you? Someone who might get you he might get you a penalty here and there, but you live with that because you know he likes to talk. And I kind of respect that with Kamal.
Ooh, here's a hard one to top. Inky Johnson is my favorite story of any player. I hate his injury, but he's absolutely made the best of it. He is a well-known, renowned speaker with a book, and his message is just 100% positive. I didn't really get to know Inky beforehand because he had just started playing at a high level, but I can guarantee you after that Air Force game in which he was injured or the next game, his play was going to start to be a topic of discussion. So I can't say that I really knew him before the injury, but man, you got to love Inky. You got to love Inky. We got to get him on this program as well. And there's some good backstory behind that involving Dave Hooker's career as well. So that's...
Well, yeah, I mean, I respect and love Inky. It's hard for me to bring him up here because we're talking about, like, I can't just bring up people I love because, like, I love Eric Berry, but he's not a comeback player. You know what I mean? In the NFL,
in a way, he is. In a way, he is.
But we got to look
injury.
This is specifically people who were, as players, they played like garbage. These are improved players. They played like garbage, right, and then they came back and balled out. And I'm trying to stick within that realm to a certain degree. Now there's, because if we're going to do this, we could do and this is a segment for another day, comeback coaches ever. Because I think Josh Heupel may be one of the comeback coaches of all time. Here's a guy who got fired as an offensive coordinator in 2014. And,
very good. Very good. Yeah. That could have been kind of the end of his career. And listen, this sounds like I'm being catty, but I'm not. ADs want to hire the good looking coach. And I'm sorry, Josh Heupel, he doesn't look like a Pete Carroll in his prime. He doesn't look like a Lane Kiffin. So it's easy to get thrown on that trash heap of coaches because you want to win the press conference too. But he battled along. He built up UCF after what happened at Oklahoma, and now he's at Tennessee. So kudos. And I always say personally, and take this to heart, guys that are listening, beware the good-looking coach. Nine times out of 10, the good-looking coach got the job to win the press conference, and he doesn't pan out.
Yeah,
beware the good-looking coach.
I mean, literally, Hollywood's going to do a movie on like an SEC coach one day because they can make money. There's going to be a TV show or movie. Derek Dooley would play that SEC coach, wouldn't he? He was scripted. He literally was.
I'm trying so hard not to cough because it sounds nasty with my COVID, but
doesn't
that
he
was
look
the
like
funniest thing you've ever said, Caleb.
Doesn't he look like an SEC coach? Like he looks and sounds like it. He just wasn't.
He almost looks too good looking to be an SEC coach.
It's like he's like the Sweet Home Alabama type guy that, you know, Reese Witherspoon ends up with. Like, it's like he was so like well put together. He was a Hollywood version of an SEC coach.